Hello, I'm Beth Britton, MBE. I support Dementia Community with their communications work. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Help Change the Future, Join Dementia Research. Before I introduce you to our presenters, I wanted to briefly explain a little more about Dementia Community. Dementia Community is a charitable community benefit society, a membership cooperative that provides learning and networking opportunities for the dementia care community. We are an independent voice and inclusive organisation, helping all of our members to feel connected, informed, inspired, empowered, purposeful and engaged in co-produced changes that improve everyone's experiences of dementia, both in care and in wider society. This webinar is just one example of the many ways in which we do this. Individual community members own a £1 community share in Dementia Community, and membership is open to everyone. So if you aren't already a member, do join us. You can use the QR code on the screen or the link in the chat to visit our membership page. If you're having any difficulties in joining us, please do send me a message and I will endeavour to help you. Now, I have a couple of notices to share before we get started with the presentation today. So firstly, we have early bird tickets still available for the 20th UK Dementia Congress, which this year is being held at Doncaster Racecourse. If you're an individual Dementia Community member, you will enjoy a 10% discount on the early bird rate. There are further concessions available as well. So do use the QR code on the screen or the link in the chat to visit our page and to find out more about Congress. We have single day or 2-day tickets available. Congress is on Tuesday the 17th and Wednesday the 18th of November. Please note that early bird tickets end on the 31st of August 2026. Secondly, I would like to signpost you to some free issues of the Journal of Dementia Care. We have 3 special issues: Technology in Dementia Care, Celebrating the Arts in Dementia Care, and Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, a special issue. Please use the QR codes on the screen or the links in the chat to read these issues. We have a few hard copies of the arts issue, so if you like something to physically hold, do have a look in the chat. We're going to pop an email address in there for you, and you can request for one of those arts hard copies to be sent to you. Please note that aside from the arts issue, JDC is a digital-only publication. And then finally, a thank you to the Unforgettable Foundation, who have kindly set up a GoFundMe page for Dementia Community's webinar programme. Our webinars are free to attend and we want to keep them this way to ensure access for all, but providing the webinars does have cost implications for Dementia Community. This fundraiser is intended to help meet those costs, and if you'd like to donate, again, use the QR code on your screen or the link in the chat. Thank you. Now, just before we begin the presentation, let me just share some very brief housekeeping. So you should already have been alerted by Zoom that we are recording this webinar. Please use the chat for your questions. We will have a Q&A and discussion after the presentation, and we'll be keeping an eye on the chat. Afterwards, a recording of this webinar will go onto our YouTube channel, Dementia Community. So let's get started then. So our presenters for today are Jessica Roebuck, Stakeholder Engagement Manager at Join Dementia Research, Ming, who is a lived experience advocate and writer, and Sharon Bolter, Senior Research Participation Officer at the Alzheimer's Society. Jessica, Ming and Sharon, welcome. It's fantastic to have you with us. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm a big advocate of research. I think it's super important. It will help us to change the future. So really looking forward to what you're going to share with us today. And I think I'm handing over to Jess.
Thank you, Beth. I'm just going to check before I begin. Can everybody see my slides? Thumbs up. Fantastic. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jess, and as Beth kindly mentioned, I'm the Stakeholder Engagement Manager for Join Dementia Research. And I'm going to start today with a question for you all. Who here is signed up to Join Dementia Research? If you can just pop me in the chat, it just gives me a good indication on this call of who's already signed up to the service, and yeah, a kind of a little bit about the awareness of it before I begin. So I'll just give it a couple of minutes. It's always interesting to know how many people on the call know about the service. So yeah, if you're happy to just pop me in the chat, it just gives me a good indication of who's already signed up. Fantastic. So if you have already signed up and know a little bit about Join Dementia Research, hopefully you will still learn something new today. If not, hopefully it'll be a good refresher. And if this is the first time you're hearing about us, then I'm very happy to take you through what we do and how the service works. But before I do any of that, I'm going to introduce Ming onto the call. Ming is very kindly going to share her experience with her mother and her experience of taking part in research. So Ming, over to you.
Thanks very much, Jess. My name is Ming Ho. I'm a scriptwriter, drama scriptwriter by profession. I've worked on TV shows like EastEnders and Casualty, and also in radio, and as a script editor in TV production. And my lovely mum, Glenys, who died at the beginning of 2020, lived with dementia for, I would say, probably over 20 years. And it's quite hard to be exact because she wasn't formally diagnosed until quite late on, 2010, 2011, when I think she'd already been showing symptoms for probably at least a decade. Both she and I were only children. My dad died when I was a student at the age of only 52. So I think looking back, I think the shock of that and me leaving home and graduating, and my mum was coming up to retirement in the late 1980s. I think she began to show some early symptoms from those days. But at the time, we were both in such shock. We just thought it was bereavement. I think she began to show some slightly disproportionate emotional responses to things, but we didn't really think too much about it at the time. And I think it was from the early 2000s that I began to notice that her, the classic symptoms that people think of as being dementia, the short-term memory loss, getting confused about times and dates and, names and things. Those became more prominent, but because we were on our own, so I'd moved to London by that stage. I'd graduated and started work in London. My mum was still living on her own at home in Gloucestershire in our family home. And, she had been a singer when she was young before she got married. She was a primary school teacher. She was a very articulate, warm, outgoing, sociable person. So I think for a long time, her increasing symptoms weren't really noticed by anyone much apart from me, because she would go out with friends for lunch or, speak to people on the phone. And, they might notice that she was getting a bit mixed up about things, but, she was still her kind of bubbly self on the surface. And I think it was only from the 2000s onwards that what became more challenging for me is that she started to develop more symptoms of paranoia, confabulation, where, there's a grain of truth in something and she can't quite remember the context. So her mind makes up, a context for it, which isn't true. Personality change, which was a big shock to me because she'd always been very kind of empathetic with other people. And suddenly, for instance, there would be a neighbour whose wife had died and she became quite antagonistic to people mentioning this and saying, oh, I'm not going to look after him and things like that, which really quite shocked me. So I think for a long time, I kind of gradually started managing her life for her without realising it. And because I wasn't living with her full time, I was coming back and forth. I think she certainly didn't see me as being her carer. Certainly no one else did either, because she seemed to be functioning okay on the outside. And I just found probably over that decade from 2000 to 2010, she was getting increasingly confused and paranoid about things. But mainly I would be seeing that more than anyone else, particularly at night. She would get very hyperactive. And things kind of escalated to the point where I knew that she wasn't really safe to be on her own at all. But because I think this is a thing that I found particularly challenging in her case, was that some people living with dementia can acknowledge their own condition, can accept a diagnosis and can kind of, participate in planning their care with their family. But unfortunately, in my mum's case, that was never going to be an option for us. she, at the time, I probably would have thought of it as being in denial, but I now understand, now that I've learned more about dementia, that she wasn't in denial. She just couldn't see it at all. There is a term for it, I believe, anosognosia, which means that the brain damage that causes her dementia symptoms also causes her not to be able to, understand the context of her own declining capacity. So I kept hoping that there would be a stage at which she would know that things were bad enough that she would accept some help from outside. And sadly, that time never really came. And I understand now that it never could really. So, with the help of a social worker whom I could never meet face to face because she worked during the week and I wasn't there. I would communicate with her by email and phone. She helped me to engage what's now called a personal assistant. So that was a person I paid privately to just pop in and check on my mum a couple of times a week. I was hoping that that would be a gateway to her having daily care at home. But by that stage, she was so antagonistic to anything. She was afraid of people coming into the house. She wouldn't have a cleaner. She got very antagonistic towards the gardener, all those kind of things. And she was having increasing crisis. There would be almost every day, there would be something where she'd be locking herself in or out of the house. She'd be very distressed at night, not knowing where she was. There was an incident where she went out at night and had to be brought home by the police. I've written about this. I have a blog called Dementia Just Ain't Sexy. So if you want to know any more about these incidents, do have a look in the archive on that blog. So eventually I realised that I would need to arrange residential care for her. And as you can imagine, it was extremely hard because I couldn't have the conversation with her. She couldn't come with me and choose somewhere for herself to go. I couldn't really see how I was going to manage it. And in fact, I was helped by reading on the Alzheimer Society Talking Point Forum that there were other people who had been through it who were not exactly able to give me advice because really there wasn't any, but they just said, you just have to do it and you can survive it. It's not going to be pleasant, but you just have to push through it. And actually, I found professionals couldn't really help me with that process at all, but other people who'd been there could. So I managed to get her into a good home in 2011, and I felt terrible about it. I felt extremely guilty and bereft. But actually, she settled far better than I'd feared because I think by that stage she was so disorientated. She didn't really know me, I don't think, already by that stage, although I didn't understand that fully then. She certainly couldn't recognize her own home. She had no context for where she lived. She was just frightened all the time, really. So I think once she was in a place where there were staff 24/7, she was having a regular routine of meals and, support and social activities. There were some years where she actually improved. She got better to an extent physically. And she, in fact, spent 8.5 years in care in two different homes. So there was a traumatic period about halfway through that time where the management of the home that she'd been in changed. And I had to make the very difficult decision whether to move her into a different home, which I did, mainly because a lot of the staff that we liked and trusted had already gone on ahead there. So I was able to have her cared for by people that we both knew and trusted for the last few years of her life. And she died at the beginning of 2020. And by that time, she was fully bedbound. She didn't really know me for, I would say, probably the last 6 years of her life. Sometimes she would act as if, she would be quite positive towards me if she thought that I was a nice lady, that she was in a good mood that day. Other days, she might be very uncommunicative at all. Sometimes she would be quite nasty and antagonistic. All of which is very hard to bear as family at all. But I think particularly if you're the only relative, as I was, and I've got no partner or children either. So, you can imagine what that's like, that you keep trying to make a connection and you have to accept that it's never going to be like it was. So I think we were very fortunate that she died just before the lockdown came in. So I was able to spend the last 2 weeks continuously with her, holding her hand, telling her I loved her, so that I knew that I'd done everything I possibly could. Nothing untoward had happened to her at the end of her life. And we were able to have a proper funeral. And then the lockdown happened. So, obviously I felt huge sympathy for people who weren't able to have that experience because it must have been very, very distressing. But I think since my mum was in care, from about 2012 onwards, I started to become involved in campaigning and research and focus groups, initially through Uniting Carers, that used to be a division of Dementia UK, which sadly has been wound down now. But it was an organisation which, it was a place for dementia carers to actually meet each other, to have some training, to go and use their experience, to go and speak at conferences, to sign up for focus groups and consultations. And we felt that we were doing something useful. It was a way of making something positive out of the experiences that we'd had. And going on from that, then I was asked to be on the original Carers Advisory Panel of the Charity Dementia Carers Count, which used to be the Royal Surgical Aid Society. But since 2016, it's become a charity specifically focused on supporting dementia carers. And we were helping to develop support courses, and then the lockdown happened. So a lot of those courses that started in person became online. And I chaired that Carers Advisory Panel for a while, and then stood down during the lockdown after my mum had died, because I thought it was time to let some people who are a bit more current than me take over. So I think 2016 seems to be when I signed up for Join Dementia Research. I can't remember now how I initially came to it. But looking back at my record, because if you sign up, what happens is you put your details in there, what your relationship to the person that you're caring for is, or whether you are a person living with dementia yourself, what things you're interested in, your circumstances as much as you want to describe them. And then from time to time, the website will send you matches of survey studies that you can take part in. And you don't have to take part in everything they send you. You can just look through them and see if it appeals to you. And I think what I found was, I think a lot of people might imagine that research is all just about medical tests and, scientific things and stats and, scans and things. But actually, there are a lot of different types of studies that you can take part in. While I was looking after my mum, I would have imagined that I couldn't do anything because I just had no time to go anywhere. We were in constant crisis. I mean, Beth knows. Beth is looking after her mum at the moment, right now, this minute. But actually, I've discovered that there are lots of things that you can do from your own home. Some of the studies are just surveys that you can do in your own time. Some of them are questionnaires. Some of them are interviews that people can do with you online like this or by phone. Sometimes they will come to your house if you can't go out. And also, if you are able to travel, there are really interesting days out, actually, that you can have. Some of them might be one-to-one interviews with a researcher in a central place, or they could be a workshop in a group with some other carers or people living with dementia or care professionals. Some of them might be tests and activities. So one of the interesting ones that I've done recently is a VR headset test that I did at UCL, where it's testing spatial awareness. So obviously they're doing this with a number of people with control. So people without dementia, people with dementia, to see how your cognition reacts with spatial awareness. I found that quite challenging, but it was a really interesting day out. So you're asked to put a headset on and try and move in certain directions and find your way back to where you were. And it was very interesting. And to go with that one, there was a blood test. There was an optional MRI scan, which I chose not to do. But I think that's the only one that has been a real scientific physical test. All of the others that I've done have tended to be more on the socio-psychological, emotional support side of things. So if I just look at some of the ones that I've done one which was to develop a questionnaire measuring quality of life for dementia carers. One which was about planning to support carers experiencing loss and planning ahead. Decision support tool for carers of people with dementia in later stages. Exploring hope, resilience and social support for family carers. Measuring compassion as experienced by carers. How is musical experience related to our thinking skills? I was really interested in this because my mum was a singer when she was young, and I played instruments when I was young, so I was keen to do that. But that one was totally online. Human rights and attitudes towards dementia. This is just kind of canvassing people's opinions, really, about stigma and how you might challenge that. Understanding emotional connections between people with dementia and their objects. Now, this is a really interesting one that I did recently, which was it's a study trying to work out how wearable technology can be designed better to be more person-centered. So, obviously there are lots of aids on the market now, but they tend to be obviously developed by people who are very logical and practical. And I think, as I said to the researcher, the mismatch here is that obviously the people you're designing it for are people whose symptoms are what we would consider to be non-logical and non-rational. Obviously, it has a rationale to them, but it's not the same as our perceived rationale. So that was a very interesting study in trying to find ways of understanding what kind of objects are important to people with dementia, how you might actually factor that better into things to support them in tech world. And most recently, a survey about how to help people with dementia and their carers to recognize early symptoms and to seek help and support. And also one about public attitudes to blood tests. We see a lot of this in the media. Oh, great new, blood test. But they were doing a study to actually work out what people's attitudes to that would be and how far people understand what's meant by that, because actually it's more a balance of probabilities. So I think you can see from that there's a wide range of different things that you can do, depending on your circumstances, depending on what kind of issues you're interested in. And I think I found it, seeing as my mum, I've not got my mum anymore, but I've seen a lot of friends and family go through very similar situations. And I just think we go through such a lot of time feeling that we're not seen and we're not heard. And to find a place which is an actual structure where people are actively interested in hearing what we have to say and using it to do something positive to help other people and to change dementia care, I think that's been a very worthwhile thing to do. And I've carried on doing it after my mum's died. So we're 6 years now beyond my mum dying. And, as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy to carry on doing it as long as they ask me.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. I feel like you have done my job there for me, Ming, about selling the benefits of research. So thank you very much for sharing your experience. And in particular, your experience with your mum, and then, how you've kind of taken that and put it into research. I think it does really highlight that, one, how important it is for those people that are living with dementia, but also, those that are also caring for people with dementia. We do have research out there for you as well. So I hope to show that today. So thank you very much, Ming, for sharing your experience. I'm just going to bring my slides back up now. So why am I here? Obviously, I'm here to tell you all about Join Dementia Research. But before I do that, I'm going to share a little bit of a personal note, if you do not mind. So this is my lovely grandparents on my mum's side, both of whom have been showing symptoms of dementia for a good few years now, particularly my granddad. We are really struggling to get them to go and seek the help that they need. So they are both refusing to go and get a diagnosis, which inevitably means that care and that support that can be offered is also being delayed. Obviously, doing the job that I do, I'm really struggling with that, as are my parents. But it just shows also, I think, as you look forward, that goes to show that there is a family history. This is my lovely mum and dad. We do also have Alzheimer's on my dad's side. So both my grandparents on my dad's side also died living with Alzheimer's disease. So as you can imagine, me being in the position now thinking, okay, both sets of my grandparents have experienced Alzheimer's. Potentially the inevitability is there that my mum and dad sadly might also end up experiencing those symptoms. But I look ahead to the future. So this is my lovely little girl. And I want her future to be free of dementia. I don't want to have to go in a few years and look at her and think, I don't recognise you. So I personally am here because I want a future free of dementia. And that's just my kind of personal little take on that. But the main reason that I'm here today is to share with you all about the wonderful service, Join Dementia Research. I'll take you through how it works, and we'll give you some examples of different ways that we currently promote the service, and hopefully ways that you can help us and help spread the word about this wonderful service and get more people involved in dementia research, because we all want a future free of dementia. And the main message I hope you take from today is how important it is for people to be getting involved in research and to be offering them the option to take part in research as well. So I'm going to ask everybody a question. I'm hoping a little poll will appear on your screen now. What percentage of people diagnosed with dementia research take part in clinical trials? Do you think it's 1%, 5%, 20%, or 50%? Hopefully you should see the poll pop up on your screen now, and you hopefully will be able to select an answer. Just give it a couple of minutes. So you should have 1%, 5%, 20%, or 50%. And what percentage of people diagnosed with dementia do you think take part in clinical trials? If you can't see the poll, feel free to pop it in the chat. And if we just stop the poll there.
Yes, I can't see the poll. So yeah, if you
pop
also
it in the
can't
chat.
see it, just pop a little percentage in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Yeah, if you can't see it, feel free to pop it in the chat. Be interested. I can see lots coming through. Fantastic. Lots of 1%, 5%. Interesting. Okay. It's actually just 1%. So a lot of people were right there. But don't you think that is just crazy? I think I'm very close to it doing the job that I do. But yeah, just 1% of people that can take part in dementia research. And we hope to change that through this service. So I'm going to go through now into a little bit more information about why dementia research is so important. I think Ming has really spoken to it there about that opportunity to share your experience and hopefully be a part of change in the future. But to show you the stats, so we know that there are currently over 1 million people in the UK living with dementia, and sadly that is only set to rise. So by 2040, they're predicting that it's going to be 1.4 million people that are living with dementia. And as we all know on this call, that is someone's family member. For me, for example, it's my grandparents. At the moment, we know that there is a real struggle to access treatments. There's a struggle to get diagnosed. And most people potentially are out there, they're not able to receive that care and support. And that's why research is so important. Not only will it help us understand how dementia happens, why it happens, what changes to the brain cause it, it will also help us get more accurate diagnosis. It will lead hopefully to better care and better support and new treatments. So as you'll be seeing probably in the news at the moment, there has been new emerging drugs coming out. And one day we will find a cure for dementia. But the only way we are going to do that is through people taking part in research. So that is why Join Dementia Research exists. So what are we? We are a UK-wide dementia research service that connects volunteers that are interested in dementia studies with the studies that they can take part in. It's like a dating website, if you will, for dementia research. So you've got the people that are interested, the studies that are happening, and it matches them in the middle, just like a dating service. So anyone over the age of 18 can sign up to Join Dementia Research. You don't have to have a diagnosis of dementia. But obviously, those are the people that we are particularly interested in reaching with this service. So those that have maybe been given a formal diagnosis of dementia, they might be experiencing memory loss, they might be concerned about their memory symptoms, they might be experiencing other symptoms of dementia. They can also sign up to this service. We do also encourage family members and carers to sign up. So just like Ming has explained there with her experience, we do have a lot of carer research as well. So we would always encourage family members and carers to sign up, because we do have studies for everybody. We do have studies for people that are just interested in dementia research. They can take part in a study as a healthy control, so someone that is not living with dementia. Or we have studies for carers, family members, right through to those people that are currently living with dementia. By signing up to our service, that's not them someone agreeing to take part in every single study that they are told about. There's no obligation to take part. We essentially just want to tell them what's out there, give them those options of research that's happening across the UK, and then they can decide then whether or not they want to go and proceed into a study. It is totally that individual's choice. We are very lucky that this wonderful service is run in partnership with the 3 charities you see on the screen there. So Alzheimer's Society, Alzheimer's Research UK, and Alzheimer's Scotland. And when I say we are very lucky that we run in partnership with them, we really are. It means that you can phone up any one of these 3 charities and talk to them over the phone, which we know for a lot of people living with dementia, they really want to be able to speak to somebody. And we offer that through this service. So they can phone up any one of these 3 wonderful charity partners and they can take them through the journey over the phone. They can tell them more about the service and they can also register them over the phone. We also have a wonderful callback function that we run that means a charity partner can phone an interested individual back, but I'll come on to that in a little bit more detail later. I should mention that although we run this in partnership with 3 Alzheimer's charities, it is not just Alzheimer's research that we support, it is all the different types of dementia research. So Lewy body, frontal temporal, and Alzheimer's as well. But we do have studies into all the different types of dementia. People with dementia can sign up to the service for themselves if they feel happy to do that, or if they would prefer, they can have a family member or a trusted individual sign up on their behalf. They must have consent in order to do that, or they must have power of attorney on medical grounds. But this means then that that individual can manage that person's account for them. They can look at their study matches and support them to take part in the research and kind of say yes to some of the studies that they're being approached on. So we have the option of kind of signing up on behalf of a loved one as well, if someone would prefer to do that. So when signing up to the service, we ask a little bit of information about that individual, just so that we can match them to the most appropriate studies for them. So we'll ask them, do they have a dementia diagnosis? If they do, and they know, what type of dementia they have. Things like, are they taking any particular medication at the moment? How would they rate their level of dementia? We do ask all these questions, and we have a drop-down list of options available, hopefully to make it easier for somebody to answer those questions. And there is always a do not know option as well if someone's not sure. And the service essentially takes that information from the individual. It takes the information of the study, so the eligibility criteria of that study, and it matches the two in the middle. So that's kind of how the matching service works. But the only reason we ask all those questions as part of the registration is to match people to the most suitable studies for them, just to ensure that every study that they match to, they are more than likely going to be eligible to take part in. So this diagram here takes you through the 5 steps of how the service works. So step 1 is the wonderful individuals that register with us. We then work with the study team. So that's part of my role, is to work with the researchers and the study teams that are out there that are doing the research, to encourage them to use our service to find people to participate in their research. So we do a lot of work looking at what studies are happening at the moment and inviting them to utilise Join Dementia Research. The service then works its magic in the background, and that's when this matching happens. So that kind of dating website analogy, if you will, it takes information from the volunteer, the information from the study, and it matches them in the middle. The researcher then will be able to see who has matched to their study. We send the individual an email to say, you've matched this study, here's a little bit about it, please log in to find out more. And then the volunteer can then express an interest. So they've read the little kind of blurb about it, they want to find out more, they can say, yes, I'd like to hear more. And that's when the researcher can contact the individual and say, I've seen that you've expressed an interest in my study, let me tell you a little bit more, whether that be over the phone or by email. And I can kind of tell you a little bit more about my study, and then that individual decides. So it's totally up to them. If they don't feel comfortable, if it doesn't sound like the right study for them, they can say no, and that is absolutely fine. They will continue to match to other studies. But if they're happy to and they're comfortable, they can then go ahead and take part in that study. And that's kind of where Join Dementia Research ends. So then consenting into a study and all of the next steps are done outside of Join Dementia Research. But the really important thing to note is there is no obligation to take part in any of these studies. We hope to tell people about what research is happening. We hope to tell them about research happening all across the UK, not just within their kind of local area. And then it is totally up to that individual whether or not they want to go ahead and take part. I'm very glad to say we do see a lot of people going ahead and taking part in studies, but if you do not feel comfortable, that is totally fine. So I'm going to take you through step 1 of that process in a little bit more detail now, because we do have lots of different ways to register, and hopefully we have something for everybody. So the first way to register is online. You can visit our Join Dementia Research website, and we have an online registration form. And as I mentioned before, you can have a loved one or a carer do this on your behalf if you would prefer. We have our 3 wonderful charity partners, so you can call up any one of their helpline numbers and they will be able to register you over the phone. And we do have our jewel in the crown, as we refer to it at Join Dementia Research, which is our callback function. So if you go onto our Join Dementia Research website, you will see a register by phone button, very similar to this on the screen here, in the top right-hand corner. If you click on that, that will allow you to request a callback from one of our charity partners. So say you work in a GP practice or a memory assessment service, and you are speaking to an individual and you say, are you interested in taking part in dementia research, or are you interested in changing the future of dementia? And they seem quite interested, but we know your time is very limited. You could take them, sign them up for a callback, and essentially Our wonderful charity partners do the rest. So all you need to do is click that register by phone button. You'll just have to ask that individual for a name and a contact number and a reason for the callback. So it could be they want to register over the phone or they want to hear more. And then one of our wonderful charity partners will phone that individual back. I'm going to come on to a little bit more detail in a moment, but it is the absolute jewel in the crown of Join Dementia Research because, again, it gives people the chance to speak to somebody over the phone, and not just somebody from a trusted charity that hopefully a lot of people will know. And then our other way to register is a good old-fashioned paper registration form. There is always a place for a paper registration form, in my opinion. So you can order these for free from our online shop, which I will give you the link to later. And yeah, you just fill out this paper registration form. That's processed by Alzheimer's Research UK, and they create the kind of online version of the account for the individual. And all that will happen is with this one, they'll be told that all of the dealings with the researchers, the way they want to be contacted, will need to be over the phone, because we're more than likely assuming that they probably don't have access to the internet or do not feel comfortable using a computer when they fill out a paper form, but they can state that they do when they do that. And as I mentioned, you can register on behalf of a loved one as well if you would feel more comfortable to do that. So our jewel in our crown, our callback function, it is really simple. Essentially, all you've got to think of, if you have got someone in front of you, so say you were in that, as I mentioned, you work in a memory assessment service, say you're a member of the public and you're at a community event and you would love to promote Join Dementia Research to friends and family, and they seem really interested in that moment. Yeah, I'd really like to hear more about that. All you need to do is go to our website, click that register by phone button and take their information and say, all that will happen now is a charity partner will phone you back, normally within 10 working days, and a charity partner will do the rest. It is really that easy. And so essentially, we want to encourage anyone who is getting the opportunity to have those face-to-face conversations with people, whether they're expressing memory concerns, whether they are having a potential dementia diagnosis there in front of you. Talk to them about research, mention Join Dementia Research, and if they seem interested, please do sign them up for a callback. Capture that interest there and then, and let us do the rest for you. The best part of the callback function, as I said, is the fact that that individual then will get to speak to a real human being from a trusted charity. So one of those charity partners, Alzheimer's Scotland, Alzheimer's Research UK, or Alzheimer's Society, will phone that individual back. And we know that our volunteers really see the value of that. So hopefully now that you know how the service works, I thought it'd be interesting to tell you a little bit about the types of studies that we have. And Ming really beautifully explained her experience of all the different types of studies that she's done as kind of part of her experience. And I like this little quote here: it's not all needles and drugs. It really isn't. We have everything from questionnaires that you can take part in person, over the phone, virtually on something like Zoom. We have genetic tests that might require a blood test. We have things like testing new cognitive tests, right through to, yes, some of the new emerging drug trials, if that's what people want as well. In order to use our service, so when we are working with study teams and researchers, they have to have ethics approval in order to use this service, and that's to ensure that the safety, the rights and the well-being of all of participants are always protected. So you can ensure that we have done that check and all of these studies have been ethically approved. So there is a huge range of studies that we have on the service. At any one time, we have between 80 and 120 studies open on the service and recruiting. So hopefully we really do have something for everybody. And another wonderful quote here from one of our volunteers. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just love that last line. Research is looking at what we can do better for patients. That is, in its simplest form, that is exactly what research is trying to do. We hope to demystify this idea of research. It's not about drugs. It's not about blood tests. It is just about offering hope. It's about making a difference for future generations. It could be something as simple as sitting on a call with a researcher and sharing your experience, whether you be living with dementia, whether you be caring for someone with dementia, whether you be a health and care professional and you are actually out there diagnosing people with dementia. That research is also extremely valuable. Right through to some of the new drug trials, right through to trying an AI pair of glasses to help you make a cup of tea, which I think is absolutely fascinating. But there is really something out there for everybody. And I'm going to share a video with you next that talks about Susan and her husband Richard's experience of taking part in a music therapy study. So hopefully this works now.
Oh, Jess, I don't think I've got any sound. Is there meant to be sound on this?
Let me see if I can get the sound working.
Yeah, I don't think I'm the only person. No, we've got no sound. I think also we're possibly going to overrun. I know you've got still quite a lot of content as well. So I wonder if we pop the links, if I pop the links to the films that you wanted to
Yes,
show in the chat, so that people, and we will make sure that they are also on the description box of the YouTube
amazing.
recording for the webinar, just so you can get through the rest of your content
Fab.
and allow us a little bit of time for some from some Q&A as well. So I'll pop the links to the films in the chat now.
Amazing. Brilliant. Thank you, Beth. I'll talk you through some examples instead. Probably another good way of doing this. So we do really have some studies for everybody. So this one here is demonstration of AI enhanced technology for people with dementia. It's looking for people that are living with dementia and also a carer to help them take part. They can be living at home, or it might be that they're living in a care home. And this is led by the University of Hertfordshire. And what is this study asking someone to do? So this study is essentially saying they will receive 3 visits from a researcher. They'll be asked to talk about their everyday routines and daily activities, and they'll try a reminder device called Memory Aid. I always find these ones really fascinating. So this study aims to understand how people living with dementia and their carers experience different types of technology and reminder technology, whether a manually programmed version or an AI enhanced version is better. And we hope to learn what people find helpful, comfortable, frustrating, or supportive when using these types of technologies. And then one
Yes,
here,
sorry.
oh, sorry.
Sorry. Do you want to move the slides on as well? Because it seems to be stuck on one of our films, I
Oh,
think.
on my end, hang on. Let me stop and reshare. Can you see that one?
Yeah, I can see that one. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank you.
fantastic. So this one here is explaining the role of humour. So I won't read this one out loud, but again, just an example of a study that it's not a drug trial, it's not asking for a blood test, it's not asking for an MRI, it's actually exploring how humour can play a role in improving the lives of people living with dementia. So we really do have something for everybody. Another wonderful quote here from one of our participants. So again, speaking to researchers has helped me give confidence and given me a positive outlook on life, whereas others might struggle in my situation. So again, just that selfish way of looking at research as a way of helping the next generation. And we have to remember that we wouldn't have the opportunity to take part in research, though, if people aren't told about it. And so it is up to everybody to talk about research. If you are in that position where you are talking to people living with dementia or their family members, please do talk to them about research. At the moment, we know that fewer than half of the people diagnosed with dementia in England have a documented discussion about taking part in research, and we really want to change that. So, another question here for you. So, when it comes to diversity in research, we are very aware that there is a lack of representation of people from different ethnic backgrounds when it comes to dementia research. And in the UK, people from Asian and Black backgrounds face dementia rates over 20% higher than the national average. So, another poll for you now, and again, pop your answers in the chat. What percentage of research participants do you think people from ethnic minority backgrounds account for? So, yeah, what percentage would you kind of take a guess at? I'll do this one quite quickly because I'm aware of the time. But yeah, if you're happy to pop a quick answer in the chat, and then hopefully we'll see if we get any correct guesses. Okay. Yeah, everyone seems to be pretty much on the money. So yeah, the correct answer is just 3%, which is quite shocking when you look at how kind of adversely affected people from different ethnic minority backgrounds are within research. So again, we need to change something. So what have we done? So we've made a start, I suppose, at Join Dementia Research in how we can support the South Asian communities to take part in research. So in 2024, we began working in collaboration with the wonderful Team Sahara at Alzheimer Society. They are a dedicated dementia support service from the South Asian community within Greater Manchester. And they are a team of advisors who all come from this community, have great links within the community. And we began working with them on initially a running event for community leaders all about dementia, how to kind of break down the stigmas and the barriers that currently exist, how to have a conversation about dementia and seek a diagnosis, how to even broach the word dementia because they don't have a word for dementia in their language, and ways to engage that community and hopefully encourage them to go and seek a dementia diagnosis and seek the right support. After that, we began working with them more closely, and we looked at doing more about how we could then kind of invite research into the conversation. So myself and Sharon, who you'll hear from very shortly, at the Alzheimer Society, we ran a training day with Team Sahara and taught them through all about dementia research, why it's so important, and ultimately the lack of representation that is out there and why we need to change that. And we upskilled them essentially about talking about Join Dementia Research. And from that, they have been going out within the community using a couple of tools we've created for them. So you can see here we translated our easy read leaflet into Urdu. And they have been speaking to people about research and referring them on to the Alzheimer Society to sign them up over the phone. We also created a video, which will get shared with you. Beth, very kindly, thank you. We'll share that with you. And these are both resources that you can use if you are working within this community, if you have links with this community, to encourage them to sign up. Just going to skip the video on. So why am I telling you all that? Why is research so important? Why am I telling you all about the different ways to get involved? Because we really need your help. We need you to help us spread the word about this service. Whether you are a member of the public and you just want to tell your family and friends about it, whether you go to community events and you'd be happy to spread the word, whether you are a health and care professional and you have direct contact with people that are living with dementia, are currently going through a dementia diagnosis, we really need your help to spread the word about this service. So hopefully we're going to give you some ideas now about how you can do that. So Sharon, I'm going to introduce you all to Sharon from Alzheimer Society. Sharon Bolter, as Beth mentioned earlier, is the Senior Research Participation Officer at the Alzheimer Society, and she's going to take you through some fantastic work that they are doing with memory assessment services. So Sharon, over to you.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Jess. And I'm also conscious on time, so I'll keep as brief as I can. I've had the last 6 years, I've had the absolute pleasure and privilege as a charity partner of Join Dementia Research to talk to people, regardless of whether they have a diagnosis, whether they support loved ones, or they're just genuinely intrigued about research about Join Dementia Research. But I also, part of my role is going out and engaging with the community and healthcare professionals. And I'm just going to talk about some of the experience that I've had with healthcare professionals from a memory assessment services perspective. From diagnosis to discovery, the 60-second conversation that could change dementia research, it's all about turning patient contact into research participation. Every day as healthcare professionals, in memory assessment services, you are meeting people at one of the most important points in their lives. The moment that they begin to understand what's happening with their memory. And in that moment, patients and families are not just looking only for answers, but they are genuinely looking for hope, understanding, and control about what comes next. And as a memory assessment service, they're often the most kind of trusted point of contact, that first point of contact in the dementia journey. And that makes you uniquely placed to do something incredibly powerful, open that door to dementia research. Now, we know under the National Institute of Clinical Excellence guidelines that all people with a diagnosis of dementia should be informed or told about opportunities to participate in dementia research. However, this doesn't always happen, and it's not because there isn't a willingness to do it, but we are seeing increasing pressures on primary care and memory assessment services. And this makes having time to have those conversations difficult. We've got rising waiting lists, we've got workforce shortages and limited consultation times, especially in some of those more complex diagnosis cases. So as a result of this, many people with cognitive impairment or dementia may not be aware of the opportunities to participate. So there is a clear need here to address this challenge to enable those people to be able to hear about opportunities to then decide whether they want to have a choice to have a voice in dementia research. So the solution that we came up with is that we have been working very closely in partnership with a number of memory assessment services to create referral pathways for healthcare professional staff to have that 60-second conversation. Would you be interested in hearing about the future to change dementia through research? Yep, that's great. All that happens then is that we have a streamlined referral process that enables memory assessment staff to, with the patient's consent, pass on their details to our research participation team, and we'll talk to them about what dementia research means, why it's important, what are the benefits of participating. We also are able to keep them up to date with any latest developments that are happening in this field if they're interested. We explain the Join Dementia Research service, and as Jess has alluded to earlier, as a charity partner, we can actually register people over the phone for that service. This actually does make it far more accessible for people who are limited with time pressures or really aren't comfortable accessing technology or navigating technology. And our support with our team doesn't stop there. Whether it's updating a profile, whether it's resetting a password, or talking through a piece of research that they would like to participate in. So we are here to remove any barriers there that may prevent people from participating in a variety of dementia research opportunities. So, as I said, our goal is simple. It's there to remove the barriers, build confidence, and make it easy for people to participate. So this has reduced the burden on clinical staff whilst ensuring that patients receive personalised support with registering on the Join Dementia Research Service. And since I started in the Society back in 2020, there have been over 2,300 referrals coming in from memory assessment services that I've worked with. Now, this is a huge, significant increase. We register about 400 people a year via the memory assessment services, and those referrals account to about 40% of our total inquiries, and they're vital because memory assessment services have exactly the types of people that researchers need to hear more from. So one of the classic examples here in terms of impact is through a memory assessment service in Birmingham called Birmingham and Solihull Memory Assessment Service. And before this pathway, this referral pathway was implemented, we only had 7 registrations from that memory clinic in a whole year. Since that referral pathway's been set up, we've actually had 694 registrations from this one memory clinic alone. So this is one of the fantastic ways as a charity partner, we are working very closely with the service to promote awareness. So whose job is it to talk about dementia research? Is a question I get asked often. We all have a responsibility because we all need to change the future of dementia, and the only way that can change is by people participating in dementia research. And as healthcare professionals, you are the trusted experts in the dementia pathway. I'll move on, Jess, actually, if that's okay, because I'm conscious we've got about 4 minutes left.
Brilliant.
Oh,
Thanks,
and of
Sharon.
course, use the callback function. That's what that's there for.
Please do. Please use the callback function. Right. Yes. Apologies, everyone. As is always the way with Join Dementia Research, we have so much to get through that we always end up going over. So apologies to everybody on the call. I'm going to wrap up there, and I'm going to wrap up with a question to end. We have loads of different materials that you can utilize to help you with Join Dementia Research. We have e-learning, we have videos available of different people's stories, we have physical materials, leaflets, posters, which will all get shared with you after this call. Beth will very kindly share the link to our online shop with you. But I'm going to end it with a question. How are you going to help us beat dementia? Are you willing to help us beat dementia? If you are, and you'd like to discuss a little bit more about how you could maybe support the service, as Sharon said, we're talking about us registering people for a callback. Please feel free to get in touch. So if you want to, I will pop my email address in the chat. If you want to get in touch and have a little bit more of a conversation about how you can support us to spread the word about this service and encourage people to take part in research, then we would love to hear from you. Apologies, we have run over, but I hope you found it really interesting, and I really look forward to hopefully having a little bit of time for questions. But thank you, everybody, so much for having us.
Thank you so much to Jessica, to Ming, and to Sharon. That was a really informative session. If that hasn't persuaded you to sign up for research, all the different kinds of research in so many different ways, then I don't think anything will. And this is something we can all do. This is not something that is only for some people to do. So you've got Jess's link in the chat there. I have seen a question, so I'm going to come straight to that. Can we get some leaflets sent to us as professionals?
Yes, absolutely. So if you'd prefer to do a bigger bulk order, get in touch with me and we can do that. If not, we do also have a free online shop that I think, Beth, you very kindly shared in the chat. So you can go there, create an online account, and then you can order what you feel is necessary. So we've got an easy read leaflet, we've got a poster, we've got a leaflet that's aimed at the public, a leaflet for health and care professionals, and you can order all of those for free from that online shop. But as I mentioned, if you prefer kind of a bigger stock, please get in touch and let us know and we can sort that order out for you.
And I think I'm right in saying, Jess, that includes materials in other languages as well, doesn't it? It's not just...
If you're looking for particularly the Urdu leaflet, get in touch with me for that one. We don't have that available on the online shop, so that would be kind of more smaller specific orders.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And I know from my memory service work, because I'm a memory service peer reviewer, that memory services really struggled. So I think your little headline there, Sharon, 60 seconds to turn, okay, you've got a diagnosis, but what can you do to change the future for maybe yourself, but certainly for other people, I think is a really, really powerful message. So I would urge particularly memory services as well. If you're on the call today, let's try and improve 1%. Eek! It's terrible, terrible. Let's get more people involved.
Yep.
Very interesting. Wish you didn't talk about beating dementia. It sounds over the top. Improving life for those with dementia would work better for me. And I think there is a lot of that, isn't there, in research? A lot of it. Ming, you talked about this. Different studies that look at actually different interventions and things that improve life for people who are living with dementia now. Yeah, I think that's really, really important. Marie says, I'd be really interested to know what translation services you used for your leaflet, please. Have you any idea just what the translation services were?
We actually very kindly used a member of Team Sahara to translate the leaflet into Urdu. We looked at using a translation service, and then Sanya very kindly offered to do it for us. So translated
it was also then passed through a trusted member of the community. So it wasn't just our internal member of staff with Urdu. It went out to a couple of people in the community to check everything there as well.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to take the liberty of asking two more questions. One of them, I have a daughter who's 10, and she was very keen to know if she has to wait until she's 18 to take part in research. Are there any options for younger people at any point? Probably not through Join Dementia Research, but do you ever know of anything where actually younger people can get involved?
Oh, that is a fantastic question, Beth, and probably a very timely one. So Join Dementia Research is run in partnership with our charity partners, so I'm employed by the National Institute for Health and Care Research, and there is a lot of work at the moment looking at children and young people and how we can get them involved in research, because a lot of studies at the moment, the minimum age will be 16. So I think there's a lot of work currently looking into that to understand whether it can be lowered based on the study and if it's appropriate for someone younger. But at the moment, I believe that, due to how it is currently, you have to be at least 16 for a lot of studies. But I know there is kind of questions around that at the moment to see if it's appropriate and if it's kind of study appropriate, could that age range be lowered?
I think it could be very interesting, an opportunity to change how younger people view and perceive dementia, and see that then filtering through society as they become the adults and the middle-aged people and then the older people. So yeah, I'll just leave that one there. You can stick that one on the radar for somebody. And my other question is going to be, because I know we have some some people on the call today who are from a social care background. Social care providers, if they want to support people to get involved with research, how can they do that? Is it all about getting families involved, powers of attorney, all of that? Or are there other ways in which we can encourage social care providers to be part of this?
Ooh. Do you want to take this a little bit, Sharon? Are you happy for me to start? And then I don't know if you've had experience with any social care. We've had a little bit directly with Join Dementia Research, but
Yeah, I'll let you start off with that one
yeah.
if you've had a little bit of experience.
Yeah, so we've had a few kind of social care providers reach out to us, and I think it's all about, if they're happy to speak about this service, utilize the materials we've got out there. So if they're happy to display some of our leaflets, we can also provide training. So if somebody's happy to kind of be a champion, I suppose, if you will, for Join Dementia Research, we could maybe upskill social care staff to talk about the service. And then again, if they would be happy to refer people on for things like a callback, so then we can register people over the phone. But I think we have a long way to go, to be honest, with social care, not only social care research, but supporting social care, the social care workforce to promote research. But that's our experience so far, is we've been doing some work to upscale, some work to try and embed it within social care. And then, yeah, essentially kind of utilising what we've already got, so our leaflets and our callback function, then for them to be able to encourage people to sign up.
And the only caveat I would add in there is that we've been working locally through Alzheimer's Society with a learning and disabilities team who in adult mental health with people that have dementia. One of the easiest things people can do is actually register on the service themselves to initially explore as professionals what types of dementia research they can be involved in, and again inform the people that they are supporting about this opportunity, and either signpost them back probably to the callback function. Again, pop Join Dementia Research leaflets into any information packs they are sending out as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I think that is part of the future, isn't it? Because apart from the people that they're supporting, who obviously will progress and become more advanced with their dementia, may struggle to participate in a lot of studies. Actually, for a lot of staff, this is a passion for them, and they want to be able to change the future as well. We're going to have to draw a line there because we've overrun. But thank you so much. Thank you for all the participation in the chat. Lots of people popping in their percentages and all of that. So we really appreciate your participation this afternoon. Thank you. And thank you again to our presenters, Jessica, Ming and Sharon, for your time and expertise today. Thank you very much. So just to signpost you to what happens next with our webinars. So we are taking a break now for August, but we do resume in September. Do follow Dementia Community on Eventbrite. That is when you will get that brilliant little ping into your inbox that says another webinar is available for you to sign up to. You can alternatively, of course, also keep an eye on our webinars page on our website. QR codes and links in the chat for both of those sources of webinar information. So until we meet again in September, thank you very much for joining us on another Dementia Community webinar. Thank you.